what an honor that is that we get to hold space for that. And so I think that recording will stick with me forever.
Wow.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Halfway to Sunday. And you guys, this is our 100th episode. And I'm so excited that we get to celebrate with my friend, Cassian Bellino, she of the Biblically Speaking podcast. And oh my gosh, welcome back to Halfway to Sunday.
Thanks so much for bringing me back. This is huge. 100 episodes is such a feat. Did you know that like 90% of podcasts don't make it past 7? Like to me, like they only go to 7 podcast episodes and you're at 100.
That's wild. And I'm actually really excited that you come from the podcast world. And so I'm so excited to have some of these fun conversations. But I hope it's not a cop-out. And I hope I didn't twist your arm too much. But I was like, I want Cassian to come and almost like, I don't know, interview me, but not just have this conversation about what it's been like, what Halfway to Sunday is all about, but also like maybe even what God is doing. And so I'm not going to toss it to you, but I'm going to toss it to you because I'm so excited that you're here. And I love the work that you are doing. So this just feels so special that we get to do this for 100th episode. And so thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for just investing your time into this.
No, it's an honor to be a part of this. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Halfway to Sunday.
Yeah.
So how would you like, what is this the feeling here with like where you started, what you thought you were doing?
Yeah.
Now, 100 episodes later, what you are doing.
It's so funny because I just said to you, like I had no desire to be behind the camera, the microphone, all the thing. I never expected to be in the podcast world. It wasn't something that I was like, ooh, I have so much to say and I want a podcast and I want to share all this stuff. But what I did have was, I just want to just share about Jesus. I was like, okay, I can talk all day about my love of the Lord. I can talk all day about his word. And in the beginning, God brought me a friend, a long time close friend. So she was my podcast partner. We started together 2 years ago, and it was so much fun to just have those conversations. We actually started, even before Halfway to Sunday, we started a limited series on Lent, and it was called Ashes. And so we just tested it out. It was an experiment, and then we just kept going. And my friend Dre, she stepped away. She was called to something different. The Lord was calling her elsewhere. And so then we just kept going. And if I say the honest thing, I was like, I'm not doing interviews. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. And it's so funny that the Lord is kind of like, tell me more about what you're not going to do. Like, let's talk about it. And what's cool is like, now we get to tell God's story through other people, through what he's doing in the lives of other people. Like you joined us. I can't wait. I hope people will go back and listen if they haven't already, but just like what God did in your life and is doing in your life through your podcast. Like, it's just so cool that we get to highlight so many amazing people. And it's just, I don't know, it's an honor. It truly is an honor.
It's almost silly, if I'm being honest, because like here we are using technology to just talk to people. Like you and I are like normal people. Like I think prior to podcasting, it was like interviews were reserved for like Oprah Winfrey and Tom Cruise. And now here we are interviewing and having equally interesting and substantial conversations. And it really is like this moment where we get to talk to other Christians. We get to share our faith. We get to share a story. And that's meaningful work. You know, I think it's like so great that like here we are as podcasters, and like the thing that brings us the most joy is like talking to strangers on the internet about how much we love Jesus and the confusions we have. And we're like, I love what I'm doing. Like, this is such important work. And like, it's just a funny concept if you zoom out of it. Like we didn't know each other until we interviewed each other. And now here we are just like still hanging out because of this oh yeah, this is just a recorded little chit chat and we love it. And people get to listen and they get to share and they get to learn and we get to connect with them.
I love that you said that because it really is like, that's what means the most to me. I think I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I think that's what means the most to me, of just like those connection points. Like our stories matter. And our stories of God, it's almost like the Bible continues in each of us, because our stories of what he's doing, if we don't tell them, then how will anyone know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like this honor that we get to highlight that we get to say, oh my gosh, like this is what God's doing. He's still moving. He's still doing miracles. He's still doing all these things. And yet like we get to talk about it. Like you said on technology, it's just wild.
It is. It is. Okay. So you feel like the podcast has stayed the same? Has it evolved? Have you evolved? I feel like the hardest part about podcasting is like what you have, like podcasting in itself is the joy. There's no like end in sight. And so like you change as a person, as a podcaster, just as the podcast itself evolves. Like, how do you think that has, like, what changes?
Yeah, there's so many changes. Like I feel it's almost shocking. Like when I look back, or honestly, if I listen to old episodes, I'm like, wow, I've come a long way. Because I didn't set out to do this. I didn't have any training. I didn't all of that. But so it's cool to say, okay, Lord, thank you for growing me in this, because that's such a huge difference. I also think too, like, my trust in Him has strengthened. Am I arrived? No. But like actually trusting Him that He's leading me into this really cool thing is, man, it's been such a learning for me, because I didn't set out to do any of this so for me to say yes, it's those tiny yeses that keep me, recording the next episode. I mean, it's 100 episodes is a lot. And when you just kind of get like that tunnel vision, if you will, of just like, okay, I just want to be obedient. I just want to do whatever. But then like actually saying yes to God, you're partnering with God in what He's doing. And I think that's really cool. And I want to let myself almost like, I think that's why I wanted you to be the one to like actually come on and talk to me, because I was like, I want to dig into this. I want to dig into what we're doing here on Halfway to Sunday. I want to dig into all of this, but I also want to be really proud of the work that we have done, both me and my husband, both everybody that we, or the people that we've interviewed. So it just feels like this huge honor that to celebrate this, but also like, I need to celebrate this.
Absolutely. And I understand the tunnel vision of like, you kind of get into that place of going through the motions, like, of course we hit 100 because, we did 99 before. But it's like that, like take a moment to step back and be like, but numbers do matter, and if I don't celebrate this, no one will. And I got myself here because I was obedient and God chose me and like, look what He did and look what He brought me through. I think that this is absolutely worth celebrating. Do you have like a goal? Like just kind of thinking long term? Are you just like, God's got the reins, like we're going to do 200 or 1,000, or are you just kind of like, I'm just grateful, if it ended tomorrow, I'd be happy?
I think that's a great question, because I think that it is. It's just like, okay, Lord, what's next? It's very Romans 8. It's like the Message version of just like we weren't made for a grave tending life. It's supposed to be this adventure, and just like, it's just looking at the Lord and going, okay,
Romans
what's
8?
next?
That seems like a great verse. I should know.
Well, in the message version, it just like gives a lot more depth of just like, what's next, Papa? Just that I don't know, that mindset or that posture that like, God, you don't lead us to destruction. You lead us to life. You lead us to excitement and adventure. And if we actually keep saying yes, then like the sky's the limit. Like He is just going to bring us on just so many good things.
Oh, it is really long. I was going to read it, but this is like a whole chapter. Okay, I'll come back to this. But that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So many questions that the chapter is called "The Solution is Life on God's Terms." That's great. So there's two things I want to talk about. One is there a episode that sticks with you? Like an episode that you'll never forget?
Yeah. I have to tell a little bit of a backstory, but we had, I'd gone through this month-long fast. I think you and I actually talked about this when we recorded, that I was, that I just really wanted to trust the Lord in some things, but I knew I needed to like maybe remove some things in my life. Nothing bad, but just things that were a distraction. And so I was coming off this month-long fast, and we actually went out of town and came back and had like 7 interviews to record when we got back. And it was just like, it was a lot. And it was so interesting. Like the first day was so good, We had 2 days of recording. And the second day, though, I woke up excited. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting because it's just, again, like the kind of like the task list of like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do. But I woke up excited, and all of a sudden this thought came into my head. I get to tell God's story. And I got so excited. And so that day, my very last interview, it was with Laura, and I will link the show for sure in the comments or in the notes. But she told her story of suffering, and she had written a book about her and her health and her husband. And like, I was just sitting here listening to her story and honestly just making space for her to tell her story. And her heart for God, even after walking through these really, really tough things, wrecked me. Like when I asked the question, like after her husband passed, and she's still like singing the praises of the Lord. And I like ask her a question, like, what's your favorite thing about your husband? What do you miss about him? And like for her to answer that question with so much grace and so much love for the Lord, I was blown away. So when we hit stop, like Alonso and I we had to leave for an event, and we just both kind of sat there for a second, just completely wrecked, I think, in the best possible way. Like I can't even record the intro or do anything for this. I can't, like, I have to just take a minute, because it was kind of at that moment where I go, oh, this is an honor. This holding space for people's stories, their hurts, their traumas even, and how they came back to the Lord, or their story about finding the Lord, or their story about wrestling even with the Lord and being angry with the Lord and then coming back to just, He is so good. It's like that. What an honor that is, that we get to hold space for that. And so I think that recording will stick with me forever.
Wow. Yeah, that seemed like that really, really moved you and impacted not just like your relationship, but like how you can view the impact of like what God is doing in your life. That like, oh, we're not just doing silly little conversations on record. Like we are sharing stories that are life-changing, that change mentalities, change perspectives, that share information and stories that people might never hear in their lives.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really amazing. It's hard though to like look back, I feel like my first couple, I would say like my first 50 episodes are much more memorable than the last couple, not because of the guests or the content, but because it's so raw, everything's so new that you're so involved in it. And then it kind of becomes a little routine, which is on me. I'm trying to not have that happen and try to take some change so that doesn't happen.
But I think that that's such an important point. Like, I think that kind of like what I was saying, that tunnel vision, I think we go through the motions of like, I want to be obedient. I want to do the thing, even like in our walk with God. Like it's so easy to be like, I'm reading my Bible, I'm going to church, I'm doing the things, and then we don't stop. Like we honestly talked about this, like having that margin or that space to actually sit and go, oh no, you're the God of the universe, and you want a relationship with me. And I've been completely ignoring that while doing, I'm in the business, or not the business, but like the busyness of following you and being obedient, but I'm not actually spending time with you. Like,
yeah, like thanks for all the stuff. I'm going to go do it, but not actually spend time with him. Like, absolutely. I have, like when you said margin, I was like, that's the word that I've been lacking. It's not quiet time with God in the morning. It's not leaving Friday nights just to be alone. It's like in every aspect of everything, there should be a little bit of margin.
Yeah. Well, if you let me, like, how does that, like you and I are in very different seasons, but we also do very similar things. And so like, what can that look like for, like when you're trying to say yes to God, when you're trying to do all these things, like what can that look like?
I don't know. I think it like requires such strong boundaries. Like it's such something of this world. Like God is supernatural, but like in order for us to like protect that margin, I have learned, and I think that's why God has kind of been letting me go through what I've been going through recently, which has not been fun and cool and chill. It's been really tough and rough. I think He's teaching me like, this is the price of not having boundaries. Like if you need data, here's the data. Without boundaries equals this. With boundaries allows you to get the thing that you know will make you happy, will allow you to actually have that quiet time. And you kind of see like, okay, so the price I pay, this is the price I'm prepared with. So this, honestly, I think this is where that like worldly aspect of boundaries and the pain and suffering,
Mm,
that's the role that it plays. And so from there, you maintain that
that's good.
margin by protecting that margin. And you're not going to protect it if you don't have good boundaries. And I've learned a lot recently that how poor my boundaries are. And that's on me. That's my
Same.
responsibility. And God has been
Yeah.
graceful enough to be like, this is the price of not having boundaries. And yet I'll still pull you through and you won't die. And like things won't fall apart. But like they won't be easy and
Right.
they won't be good. Um, yeah, no. And I'm like going to therapy for boundaries. Like we're really working on this because I think I'm realizing like how
Yes.
bad it can be when you don't have margin, when you are just operating on autopilot and you haven't had any time with the Lord to like really like sit down and plan or hear him. And you're like, I'm
Yeah.
just guessing and checking. And it's like, that's such a waste of time.
Right. Okay, that's good because and I have been through 2 years of therapy and I call it therapy and Jesus growth. And I
Okay.
feel like I'm the same way though. Those boundaries that I was like, oh, I have boundaries, right? And no, I super didn't. I didn't like have the tough conversations or I just swept things under the rug or I just internalized everything. And you're just like, oh, like God doesn't want us to be doormats. God doesn't want us to be so passive that we actually don't stand in truth or stand in whatever. And so it's so interesting that we've come into this conversation first. But boundaries. And I feel like that's such a huge lesson that I've had, even just doing the podcast of just like learning and growing and being willing to step into some of those tough spaces, like you were just saying.
I think one of the things I've recently learned is that I have so much, like there's a difference between like boundaries and like self, like knowing self, kind of like what you're saying. You're like, I had
Mm,
good boundaries. It's like, I have a lot of like needs. I have a lot of standards. I think people would like
mm,
say that I have like, I asked my dad recently, I was like, am I chill and cool? And he was like, are you cool? Yeah. But are you chill? No, Cass, you're like really demanding. And I think that was funny because I was like, I do have things I will not negotiate on. Like, I know what I need and I'm going to ask
all
for it. And
right.
if I don't get it, it's going to be a problem for me. So I'm going to protect what I need.
Right.
Um, but I think there's a difference. And like where I fall short is like, I know what I need, but am I willing to like stand up for it? Like there's a
Mm,
big difference there. You know, you can know exactly what you need and you can ask for it. But if you don't hold your ground to ensure you get it, you let people
right.
walk all over you. What was the point of even knowing what the issue was if you weren't going to fight for it? And I did not, soon will have the strength to to hold that line because if I don't, who will?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm learning. So there is that difference between like I have EQ, but maybe not a lot of fortitude. Maybe that's not
Yeah.
the right word, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's so interesting because I don't know, a month or two ago, I sat down for, like with that margin, kind of like, okay, Lord, what am I avoiding? And I just wrote down that question in my
Oh,
journal
smart.
and I'm just like, what am I avoiding? And then very quickly, I wrote a few things, but very quickly it turned into, what am I grieving?
Oh,
And I was all, okay, well, this turned like that I wasn't expected in a way that I wasn't expecting. And it was, and then the list just kept going of just like, oh, this is hard. And it's hard to sit in that discomfort. It's hard to sit in those feelings that just, it would be so much easier for me to just be like, I'm going to just shove this aside. But unfortunately, and what I'm learning about even in those boundaries, like I have shoved so many things aside that I've never actually processed or healed or whatever the situation may need. And actually listing out and naming those things that I'm avoiding and then grieving, I was like, oh, I actually named this. And now I can move forward. Now it doesn't solve anything. I'm still perhaps grieving those things, but now I'm like, oh, I'm not ignoring it and I'm not shoving it away.
wow. That is heavy work. That is really hard to like dig out of yourself.
Yeah. And also, like, I couldn't have done this 2 years ago. I mean, without the tools, without the Lord guiding me in this, I couldn't have done it. Like, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I had to, like, with therapy, with learning the tools, with allowing the Lord to make those changes in my life, I don't know that I would have been willing to face the hard things in the same way. I could have gone like, yeah, 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 I know that that's sad, or I know that that hurts, or whatever it is. But I think like learning those boundaries, learning to face it, again, with the tools that I've learned in therapy, but also learning to trust the Lord, that's when I can go, oh, I can actually do the hard work because I feel safe to do so.
Yeah, you can do the hard work because you actually have the muscles that it requires, And
Yeah, that's
that
good.
reframe has really made me feel more, I don't want to say generous. I'm like not with words this morning, but I feel like I'm more kind to myself when I realize that
Yeah.
the muscles required to do the work of today had to be built by going through all the things I just went through. It's like, oh gosh, I
Mm.
just figured this out at this age. I just figured this out after XYZ number of relationships or, this many years of like work on, like I'm such a late bloomer and I make myself feel bad because it's like, I
Yeah.
should, like, this is something other people have figured out before me. But those people gained muscles a completely different way. Like I needed to go through all this hardship to
Right.
understand the cost of it and the work that it takes to come out of it and what actually matters to me. So now when it happens again, I'm like, whoa, suddenly this is where it stops. This is where it ends. And I work in sales and that's my real job. And my boss had this amazing story about a butterfly. And I swear this is relevant, but he says that this man was sitting on a bench and he watches this butterfly come out of its cocoon. And we all know that like the caterpillar goes to the cocoon, it eats its way out, it comes out a butterfly. But he saw that the butterfly was struggling to come out of the cocoon. And so he decided he's
Mm.
going to, help tear the cocoon a little bit, help it get its way out. And then so the butterfly comes out and it just falls to the ground and dies. And he realizes that the strength that the butterfly needs to fly, those muscles are built in the effort it takes to come
Wow.
out of the cocoon. And so this is all part of the process. It's all part of the work. You would not have that
Yeah.
flight if you did not have that crawling out. If you remove that work that it takes to crawl out, you're not going to fly. And so this work is just as important as the success that it results in. And
Yeah.
that's allowed me to not be so hard on myself.
Mm. Do
Like
you
these
think?
2 years that
Oh,
you've gone through are now,
yeah.
this is the fruit, if we want to bring up right back to Jesus, like this is,
Right. Right.
he's right all along on all of this. It's really just been on the money.
I was gonna ask, like, why do you think that, like, we know that the Bible tells us that, like, through trials, through all of these things, like, that's where the fruit comes from. Like, the Holy Spirit leads us in that for sure. But why do you think that, at least for me, and it sounds like with your story, like, we avoid it? I don't know, maybe if we saw it right away, we wouldn't wanna go through it. I don't know. It just feels so, like, counterintuitive. Like you said, we learn from nature. We learn from we learn from those hard seasons, and yet we don't actually wanna do the work.
I don't think we have a choice. I've been going through the work and like if I had a choice, I would definitely not have done it. But I want to share Isaiah 43 because we've been talking about it before we got
Yes.
here. And like I have to tell you about it because I feel like it kind of gives some grace. And for me, I've gone through a lot of work with like relationships and
Mhm.
I've gone through a lot of work with unemployment and I've gone through a lot of work with like where to take the podcast. And there like that work entails a lot of failure. Like none of, we've had
Yeah.
successes, but there's a lot of failure in there and it's really hard not
Yeah.
to get stuck on that failure and to say like, well, what did I do wrong and how do I improve it? And, how did I fail and what went wrong? And so it comes from a place. So I improve. I'm analyzing this
Yeah.
because I want to do better next time. And for me personally, I get stuck in that loop. Like, okay, how did I fail? Where did that go wrong? And the
Yeah.
relationship, why did we break up? And I lost my job. How could I have like avoided that? How could I worked harder? Like so much failure allows that room to just ruminate and obsess and
Yeah.
fixate. And I like multiple instances have had Isaiah 43 come up to me and it says, like when I lost my job, I was like, oh gosh, I'm at rock bottom. I'm going to go home. 3 people unrelated to each other. My mother, my youth group leader, and like my sister. And so maybe my mom and my sister, but all sent me Isaiah 43 that day that I'm like, okay, guys, like got it. And the verses, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it
Yeah.
springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. And I read that and I was like, cool, 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 cool. Streams in the wasteland, jobs right around the corner. Like, don't you see the new job right around the corner? And
Yeah.
then these people who do not know me, don't know anything about the podcast, don't know me locally. And they were like, you know what the verse that comes up for me for you is Isaiah 43. And they said that and they like, it was so on the money that I was like, oh my gosh, like God sees me. Like there's
That has
something
to be
new.
God.
It has to be God, something is coming in the
Yeah.
future. Maybe just like speaking life into me. And now I'm going through the end of a relationship and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what went wrong? And like you're ruminating on like what went wrong. And I just keep
Yeah.
this verse and I'm like, how is this verse? If not that there's a relationship right around the corner to replace this one, but I don't think that's what it was saying. Like, I think what
Mm,
hit me was that God is saying, like, do not focus on why I ended it. Trust that I ended it and that now you
yeah.
can walk forward with me. And so instead of just psychoanalyzing all the failure, trust that this is what's happened. Now move forward. And the thing that like really ripped me out of it was like when Ruth, her husband died and
Hmm.
Naomi, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to go back to Moab. Like, you guys, even if I had children, what are you going to do? Wait for them to grow up? Like, you are my daughter-in-laws. Just like go back to your town. And Ruth's like, my husband is dead. I am moving forward. I'm not going to focus on going back into anything of the past. I'm going to
Right.
walk you, a new person, into a new country with a new religion. And she walked into her guardian redeemer. She walked into Boaz. And we look back at Lot's wife. She looked back. It says, do not forget the forward things, do not dwell in the past. If we want to be very physical about it, Lot's wife looked back. She dwelled on the things
Yeah.
behind her, turned into a pillar
Yeah.
of stone. And I just feel like that's God being like, you are going to turn into salt if you keep looking back. You need to look forward because I'm bringing you into something new and it's going to be
Mm,
refreshing. It's going to be like a stream in the wasteland because that's what I do. There's no need to dwell on the past. And I almost feel convicted about
yeah.
it. Like anytime I start kind of circling and like easing my way back into it, like there's like little sting of conviction hits me and I'm like, what am I doing? Like it feels like a dog going
Yeah.
back to its vomit. That's the feeling.
I feel like first of all, I needed that. Second of all, I feel like it's so easy to get stuck in that analyzation of, I don't even know if that's the word, the analyzing of
Analysis.
what's,
We got two brain cells between the two of us, girl. We'll get there.
we're gonna make this happen. I'm making up words this morning. But I feel like we overanalyze every single thing, and then we actually don't move forward. Like you saying, we're constantly reviewing it, reviewing the tape, and thinking, well, if I did this, or if I changed this, or if I whatever, and God's like, yeah, don't stay there. Don't get stuck there because, like as Scripture says, I'm doing a new thing, and it's funny because when you brought up Isaiah when we were first talking, I was like, oh my gosh, because that seems to be my verse of the year so far is just Isaiah 40:31 of just like that reminder to live in freedom. Those who hope on the Lord, wait on the Lord, trust in the Lord will soar like wings of an eagle. And it's just like that freedom mindset. And you can't experience true freedom in the Lord if you're holding on to all of those things, running the tape, analyzing, wishing it was different. When the Lord's like, hey, like lament, grieve, like I said, don't avoid it. But then, like, if we're actually going to move on and move forward, then we have to trust that the Lord has our best interests at heart. Trust that He's doing something new. Trust that He's good. That He brings, every good and perfect gift. Every good and perfect gift is from above. But do I actually believe that? Do I actually believe that He is who He
Are you
says He
believing
is?
it when you're dwelling on the past? I can
Right?
argue and be like, no, 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 I'm ensuring success by reviewing my mistakes. It's like, okay, but like you're not the author.
Mm.
You're not the one writing. So your mistakes aren't even taken, like your rights aren't even taken into account because you're not even, yeah, like Joshua, he got to walk into the land, like the promised land. And I
Right.
think it's in Deuteronomy, like you're going to taste the fruit that you did not plant. Like
Yes.
how much is that God being like, it's handled, keep going forward. Like
Yeah.
that carried me through unemployment. Oh my gosh. Like you're going to walk into a promised land with like flowing rivers of milk and honey and wine from grapes that you did not plant. It's like, there is nothing I can do today that will change that outcome because I'm not
Yeah.
even like, I can't like talk to the farmers. I can't, tend to the bees. There's nothing I can do. And yet that's what's in the promised land. It's like, even if I take a wrong corner, that fruit's still going to get planted by someone else that God is promising me.
Yeah. As you were talking, I couldn't help but just think like, we do these things where we tell these stories or we interview these people and we're talking about what the Lord is doing. And I wonder how often, whether it's on the podcast or not, it really like, yes, the podcast, but also like, I wonder how often do we actually say those things, say what we're going through, open up and say, like, this is a really hard season, or this is what the Lord is doing. And I feel this invitation. And so I think that's why it's on my heart and on my mind. It feels like the Lord is like, why aren't we talking about this more? Why aren't we sharing what God is doing in our life more? It's almost like I feel this intense gratitude that that's where this conversation is ultimately gone, of like, okay, this is what the Lord is doing in my life. And through that, these stories get to be told. Through that, there's just another yes that I get to say, sometimes willingly, sometimes begrudgingly, and sometimes there's willful disobedience because I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'll say yes to this, but I don't want to do that. And so it's so interesting that like doing a new thing or living in that freedom is where we kind of landed on, because that's ultimately like, I just want him to be known. I just want to share his story, because all of these hard things, all of this pruning, all of these things that we've been talking about, like at the end of the day, I would go through it. I think I can honestly say that. I would go through that and willingly step into that, knowing how good he is and how good it was on the other side. Right. And that is hard fought. That is not like I just woke up one morning and said, oh, he's good, so like whatever. Like, I'm not tying a bow on anything. It's that, like, that belief and that trust, which sometimes shakes. I can honestly say he's so much better on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. It's amazing work that we get to do. Do you feel like you've experienced a lot of spiritual warfare in this process
100%.
of 2 years?
100%. Yes.
How do you recommend getting through that?
A few years ago, I maybe even, it's been more than a few years ago, I started studying the Psalms and Psalm 91, and just like that recognition that like we can ask for anything that we need. We don't have to shrink back and feel helpless when we come under attack. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to recognize that that's what's happening, and then come against that, pray against that. But I think that what I've learned is that I think that we lowball ourselves in God. I think we lowball what God is doing. And I think that if we actually stand firm in who he is, it's all him. It's not me. But I'm inviting him into the situation and saying like, I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. This has to be you. And getting myself out of the way, but then just declaring his truth, like declaring his word. Like, I mean, I'm not especially good at memorizing scripture, but I have a couple of phrases that I keep there for a reason. So I can say, no, I am a daughter of the Most High, or whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow. They will rest. And so I think declaring scripture out loud, declaring those promises, prayers, and blessings out loud, like when you hear that, when you declare it, like you believe it, you start to believe it. Your brain starts to not, it's different than if you just thought it. When you actually say it out loud, it changes things.
Wow. I think that, I mean, we talked about fasting, we talked about verses. I do think that we underestimate the power that has to protect us.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're inspiring me. I think I'm going to do a 72-hour fast.
You know what? It's so interesting. I think I want to do this maybe, I don't know, like a series or maybe even just something on social media, because I think we have like this fear of fasting, or all this hesitation of fasting. And it's just like, it's actually so good when you just allow yourself that space to, at that margin of just being with the Lord and just allowing him to be what sustains you.
Yeah. The place that puts you is powerful.
Yeah. Okay. I have to tell you that we have talked so long about so many good things that I'm just like, I am blown away at how fast the time has gone, because I'm like, it's already time to wrap this up. And I could not be more grateful for how you just said yes to our 100th episode. But also, I'm so grateful that you asked me the questions that you do. Even our first recording a few months ago, you even turned it back on me, because you're so good at what you do, that you turned it back on me, that I was just like, yes, okay, let's go. Like, somebody's going to challenge me in this. And it was so fun. And so I don't know. I want to celebrate that. And I want to be proud of of just these conversations and your example, your questions, you even challenging me all those weeks ago. I just want to say thank you for that because it really did mean so much.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad to do it. It's easy with you. It's a natural. You're worth knowing about, and you've got amazing things to say. And when you emailed me about coming back on for the 100th episode, I thought that was like an automated message. I was like, wait a second, I need to reread this email. I can't. You asking me? So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I ask a question before we go? Because again, am so grateful for what you do. So, like, what would you? I know we're in a little bit different spaces, but what advice would you give someone like me who wants to celebrate what has been done, but looking forward that God is doing a new thing? Like, what piece of wisdom, what's something that you're learning that you would tell me as I move forward?
Oh, I would say do something new. I would say that God is calling you to
Okay.
something bigger. And I would like use the margin to say, like, what is that? Is that something in person? Is that something that's like a retreat? Is that something that's like, some sort of like Zoom, like whatever it is, like, how do we 3X what you're doing? Because you've already
That's good.
proven that you have the endurance. And if you don't have that motivation, let me be the one to encourage you to like do something bigger. You can handle that and you can do it, and it won't happen unless you do it. So you have to do it.
I receive that and I thank you for that challenge of just of another yes. That means a lot. So my friend, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us for our 100th episode. And I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much.